Former members of Donald Trump's presidential campaign now at the center of Robert Mueller's investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 election. Two former campaign officials surrendered yesterday, and we learned that a former campaign advisor pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI. Former campaign manager Paul Manafort, along with his deputy Rick Gates, both face federal charges, including money laundering and conspiracy. Both pleaded not guilty yesterday. The third man implicated in the investigation is George Papadopoulos, who worked as a foreign policy advisor for President Trump. He pleaded guilty earlier this month to one count of lying to FBI agents about interactions with foreign nationals who he thought had close connections to senior Russian government members. White House is now downplaying its relationship with him.
Look, this individual was the member of a volunteer advisory council that met one time over the course of a year. I'd hardly call that some sort of regular advisor, or as you want to, push that he's like a senior member of the staff. He was not paid by the campaign.
In the unsealed documents, investigators reveal that Papadopoulos allegedly tried to set up a meeting between Trump campaign staffers and Russian officials. He will face sentencing once the investigation is complete. Looks like he's talking and cooperating. Manafort and Gates are now both under house arrest. WCCO chief political reporter Pat Kessler joins us live now. Good morning, Pat.
Hey, good morning.
You've probably been busy looking at all the different tweets from President Trump this morning. Let's start with one. He says the fake news is working overtime, as Paul Manafort's lawyer said. There was no collusion, and events mentioned took place long before he came to the campaign. So few people knew the young, low-level volunteer named George, who has already proven to be a liar. Check the Dems. All caps on that last one.
Yep. A lot to unpack here. A lot of this is false. It's interesting that the president, who didn't tweet for nearly 24 hours, people were wondering what's going on. Reports were that he was fuming in the White House, watching hour upon hour of this coverage on cable news. But this morning, let's loose with those tweets. Let's take the first one. Manafort, he said, all of this happened years before he joined the campaign. Some of it did. That's true. However, it's false to say that that's when it stopped. The charges are that this happened between 2006 and 2017, including the time during which Manafort was campaign chairman for President Trump. Also, the assistant, Mr. Gates, also was in the White House, actually, when all of these activities took place. So that's kind of interesting, the way that is framed. Secondly, calling this young man a liar, proven to be a liar because he did plead guilty to lying to the FBI. I think you got to watch that, because he may have been wearing a wire working with the special prosecutor Mueller. So this thing is going to get bigger and bigger. It's not going to be smaller. It's not about to end. It's going to last a while.
But in fairness to the Trump campaign anyway, the information in this indictment, if I'm reading it right, Pat, doesn't really have anything to do with campaign activities. It has to do with some shady characters, allegedly, who were running the campaign. And perhaps there was some spillover effect, but not the direct link that maybe a lot of people were looking for.
Well, here it is with Gates. Right. There are many different kinds of emails that showed that this lower-level campaign guy was reaching out to the Russians who had reached out to him, and there are some indication that there are signals that he had approval from others, and he corresponded with them in the campaign. So we don't know if that's true or not yet. It is true that there is nothing to link President Trump right now or candidate Trump, but there is some evidence that there was something going on in the campaign.
The White House, they said this is not a distraction, or trying to say it's not a distraction. But then you get the reports, like you said, that President Trump is fuming. So he's still watching and obviously very invested in what's happening.
Hard to believe.
Well,
it's not a distraction.
It's got to be a distraction. Yeah, it's got to be a distraction. However, there's a country to run here. The President and the Republicans are going to unveil a tax reform proposal tomorrow, and the President is about to embark on a 12-day trip to Asia, visiting South Korea, China, and a lot of other places. So there is a lot of important work to do. So we hope it's not a distraction, and yet it appears that it's got to be distracting in some way.
Okay. Thanks, Pat. We'll see you on our news tonight at 5 and 6 o'clock.
All right, then.